sticking around. Merci d'être resté pour cette causerie après concert. Mon nom est Paul Wells. My name is Paul Wells. I'm a journalist, friend of the house. Is this week different?
In many ways, it feels the same, but of course, we know each other much better now. But also, the very first time ever I was here, there was this same kind of, I wouldn't say easiness, but the same kind of honest music-making connection in this orchestra, in a very special way.
I was here for that first concert in 2013 with Pekka Kuusisto, another wonderful violin soloist, and
he played the Magnus Lindberg violin concerto. Yeah, it was a tough program.
What did you notice about this orchestra right then, and what has kept you coming back now for a very big assignment with this orchestra?
Well, those times I knew about the history, especially the Trevor Pinnock times and the Zuckerman times. But during the years, also things have changed, and it has become much more common and possible for me as a guest here to do a much more wide repertoire than what I expected those first years, which is fantastic. And of course, I do see also how that develops the orchestra, widen the perspective of all the musicians in the orchestra, also that they have more possibilities now to touch all kinds of repertoire.
And you've played chamber concerts here, and you've played as a soloist while Maestro Shelley conducted. There's really a lot of different ways to interact with this organization.
Yes, all these Wolfgang sessions and chamber music things have been always wonderful also to take part in, and I hope to do that in the future too.
About a year ago, I visited Helsinki, and I went to the Musiikatalo, their National Arts Center. And there's a trophy case with conductors' batons of all the wonderful Finnish conductors of our time. Jukka-Pekka Sarasti and Esa-Pekka Salonen and you and Susanna Malki and about a dozen others. What is it about Finland that makes it make conductors at such a high level and in such quantity?
This question. Okay, now and then we all get this question. I don't know, of course, the absolute answer, but some things I think are involved, like the population in Finland is not very big, but I think we have more professional orchestras than any other country on the planet. Almost all cities all over the country have their own city orchestra, a professional orchestra. And they are not always big orchestras. A lot of them are, for example, Mikkeli City Orchestra is a string orchestra, but it's a fully professional string orchestra in a very good hall. If you are a young conductor or a conductor student, you have many possibilities to get to work. Because there are so many orchestras, they have eyes and ears open. Aha, there is this young person in the class now, so let's give him or her a chance. And then you get around doing the job. It's not easy to really get into the professional field of orchestras at an early stage. Any chances you get, then you have to take them, of course. But in Finland, we have a lot of these chances. And then I think also, we can call it the Björn Borg effect, if you know the Swedish tennis player who had a fantastic career. If one person has a fantastic career, then there are always others who want to follow. That's how simple it is. And because the population is small, we all know each other.
The first time you get up there with a baton, though, you must feel like you've made a horrible mistake. You're outnumbered and surrounded. Is it scary the first time you conduct?
Well, of course, yeah. For me, also, it was a physical thing. I was a professional violinist, and I felt comfortable with that, and after all work and studies and everything. And then suddenly, with the baton in my hand, I was totally stiff. I tried to think that I'm the same musician as the violinist I am, but it was impossible because I was too stiff. And still maybe people saw that, okay, well, maybe he's a good musician, he has some talent, but he needs more. He needs more work. That's the right way to go. That's also thanks to all who gave more work, and also for a lot of my colleagues, it has been the same kind of story.
As you started to have more success as a conductor, did you start to ask yourself whether you should keep playing the violin, or were you always going to hang on to the violin?
Yes, I mean, I didn't even think about becoming a conductor still when I was 28, 29. I had done good studies and hard work, and I was totally in the professional field as quite a respected young violinist. I had my debut concert. I was concertmaster in many groups, so it was fine. I didn't feel that I have a need to become a conductor. But when sometimes we did, for example, with the Avanti Chamber Orchestra, where I was very active, we did concerts where maybe only one piece needed a conductor. The rest we could do without a conductor. Then they asked, well, you can conduct that. We don't need to bring in some Salonen or Saraste for that. You fixed it. You do this Saarenho piece. And then, okay. Then I tried. And then the University Symphony Orchestra of Helsinki suddenly asked me to become their conductor. And that was also, I always tell them that, well, it's their fault that I became a conductor. Because I hadn't planned that. So, as you see, I never planned to give away the playing after all that hard work. Why would I stop playing the violin? So that was a very early decision, actually. When I got into conducting, I was 30-something. I already had decided that, okay, fine, but I will definitely keep the violin. So wherever I travel, I have the violin with me.
Does that kind of relationship with your instrument change the way you think about all these people in front of you, or change the way they think about you?
Probably, yes. I think it's an advantage that I have a close relation to an instrument. Yeah, it helps. And I'm sure orchestras notice easily that, well, he obviously knows something about string playing.
After 13 years of having a lot of fun with this crew, the relationship might change now that you're about to become the boss. Have you given that a lot of thought?
Not too much. I mean, the relation between the orchestra and me is so strong. Let's not destroy this just because I'm more bossy than before. Maybe. I mean, I will not change as a person, but of course I will have more responsibility in many ways. But I also wanted to point out in front of the orchestra that most essential thing between them and me is the music making here. That's the essential.
You are going to be the boss. And that has weight, but it also has possibility. I assume you've started to think about what you want to do with this orchestra as music director now that you're going to have more opportunities to do different things. How do you see the role of music director?
Well, it's very exciting. Of course, I'm thinking a lot about this all the time. Today I was sitting there in my room here 3-4 hours just really thinking about future weeks and programs and ideas and why I should do this or that and things like that. And so this goes on at the moment in my head all the time, and it's very exciting. I hope that you will see some results.
There's a constant debate about new repertoire versus the classics, about music that audiences might not be familiar with versus the stuff they know they're going to love. Your answer to that question seems to be, I want to play all of it. How do you think about that balance between new music and the best loved classics?
I already mentioned that Avanti Chamber Orchestra, but it was really an important thing for so many Finnish musicians that time, 80s, 90s. The whole idea was that we were people outside the Sibelius Academy, more or less same generation of composer students, conducting students, instrumentalists in the beginning of their career. Just we wanted to do something outside everything established and just invent ourselves. What do we want to do? And try things that had not been done and do repertoire that was not known in Finland. Composers like Xenakis and Donatoni and many others. And so really all kinds of really wild things too, and that's what I've grown up with. Music courses in Germany, for example, playing basic big chamber music repertoire, Brahms and Beethoven and Mozart and all this. That was also my daily life as a young musician. So I'm totally used to do all this all the time. And the Avanti thing had a big effect on the whole programming field, also within the professional field in Finland. More and more orchestras all over Finland started to do like Avanti, that they combine in the same concert something unknown, something known, some world premiere or very new. And if you look at Finnish orchestras programs all over the country at the moment, it's quite amazing actually, because that's very typical there, that new music is all the time a very natural part of a normal subscription concert, wherever.
You're coming back in February, you're playing Haydn, you're watching them while they play Haydn. Talk about Haydn.
Yes, we love Haydn. You love Haydn.
We have talked about Haydn.
Yes, such a fantastic composer, and one of the things which is so great with Haydn is that he trusts the musician. He writes a score which is full of possibilities, but he doesn't write in this is forte and this is piano and this is crescendo and this is doing. He just gives the possibilities. He's full of humor also. That's what I love with Haydn. And of course, extremely skillful in everything. I don't know, do you know any bad piece by Haydn? There's some Haydn coming up, but I won't say more.
There is more to come, but we must not say anything yet. Thank you very much for staying for the conversation. Keep telling your friends if you like what you're hearing here, if you like what Maestro Storgaards has hinted at his plans for the orchestra, if you know, as I do, that Maestro Shelley is not close to being done and we still have most of a hell of a season ahead of us, tell some friends. Merci, bonne soirée. Thanks, Maestro.
Thank you.